Yes, thank you. Question for either panel member or both. We have a lot of interesting kind of perceptions in the military space community and I would say in the American military community as well about how we think we would react if someone attacked a space system, especially one that's more vital to U.S. national security, like missile warning or something like that. But it's very interesting when you start thinking about how we would react when no lives have been lost and the only thing that's been damaged is a space system. And thinking about the context of whatever conflict we're in, you can imagine what type of debates would occur in Washington and in national security circles about how to respond when no lives have been lost, but the national security has been threatened. Could you kind of speak on potentially, Israeli perspectives or any other interesting perspectives on that? How how do you convince a population to support retaliation if no one's been hurt, but your vital space systems have been attacked? Over.
This is a very good question, and thank you very much for asking that. Actually, a few years ago, I participated in a TTX exercise in Washington on these very topics, and but there was one major issue, and that was that the exercise itself took place one day after the previous election. So I assumed it was a little bit biased, because of the surprise that was then in Washington. But anyway, as we're thinking about that, we need to eventually remember that space systems, and especially satellites, not just the components of the systems, but the actual assets in space, are not just means of power, they are still very much symbols of power. And because of that, there is a certain kind of image, a national image. So when they're hit, it is considered hitting a national symbol. And so I assume it is not just any other kind of damage or physical damage that is caused to an infrastructure. This is a much more than that. I am sorry that again I go back to the same answer and say that it's context dependent. It depends what is the context, if it's wartime or not, or it's peacetime. Is it a national symbol or is it a private satellite? So there's a lot of aspects to answer this kind of question to be considered. So I cannot give you any specific, but I think the answer maybe will be to provide a much more resilient set of space assets. So if one is being hit, then the damage is not so severe. So decision makers have much more flexibility and maneuver to decide on their reaction.
I fully agree with Gudganit. I would like to add another element. I think that when you are speaking about civilian system, they are affected also if there is some kind of damage to the space system. For instance, the Russians are operating in Syria, and sometimes they are using or they are jamming. I don't know what are the systems, but in Haifa port, all the reloading and loading of the ships is depending on the GPS. And once they are jamming and it affects the GPS, it affects the harbor, it affects the economy, it affects everything. I think that when I'm trying to evaluate it from, let's say, the MTCR regime, what we need to have is some kind of such a things in the space. I am teaching in the political science school, international relation, And I'm trying to challenge my colleagues that we'll have to deal with space governance. But you know, in the academia, they are not dealing with what is necessary, they are dealing with what is promoting the academic. And I think that one of the things that we are missing today is some kind of mechanism, you know, at the middle of the Cold War. I think that the MTCR regime, non-proliferation treaties, and all such regime were a regime that states are agreed upon what is limited. And I think that such a regime should be in the space. I know that there are some kind of treaties, but it's not enough. And you should, Dganit mentioned the redundancy that you should have, but in the global aspect, I think that we should deal with what does it mean space governance, and international relation between countries should deal with such an issue. So it will not be only a problem of states, it will be an issue that will be discussed in international fora.
I would like to add on that just one thing. The dialogue itself on these issues is what is more important than the outcome. Because if you maintain a dialogue, then all sides, all parties to the dialogue have a better understanding of red lines, of what are the concerns of the other side. Even if eventually you don't reach a kind of an agreement, whether it's a treaty or a regime, the dialogue itself is what brings eventually better understanding and change in behavior as well.